Welcome to Brainbreak, where we're taking a break so your brain doesn't break. I'm your host, Sejanaya, with my co-hosts,
Elena Morgan,
Jardines,
and Olivia.
Mental health affects everyone, but I feel as though it affects us a lot. It's definitely had a big impact on our lives and how we all make decisions. So we feel as though it's important to talk about. Do you guys want to say why it's important to you?
This is Elena. To me, it is important because I do have mental health issues, and I have noticed ever since I got diagnosed with them that it is not talked about as much as it should be. Like, it's not a normal thing, and I feel like it should be because everybody goes through stuff. Everybody has stuff happen to them to where they may feel like they can't talk about it because it's not a normal thing.
I'm Jardines, and I'm here for moral support. I have a lot of friends and family that deal with a lot of things with mental health issues, and I know what it's like from the outside point of view.
I'm Sejanaya. I personally deal with a lot of mental health issues, and I've noticed it's become an obstruction of my daily life and has started to affect my physical health. So it'd definitely be good to learn more about my mental health so I can, I guess, stay healthy longer.
I'm Olivia. This is important to me. I mean, for a lot of different reasons. I can't think of anything to say right now. I'm sorry.
So this was an assignment for the first year broadcast students, so we split it up into 4 packages for the 4 emotions: fears, jeers, tears, and cheers. We're going to start us off with fears, and I believe, Elena, you were in that?
Yes, I was in that group, and actually this was a lot of fun for me. It really helped me see how different people deal with fear and everything like that. I was able to interview our 2 social workers and also a teacher as well as a guidance counselor. So it really helped me see how they dealt with their fear, maybe a few fears that they had themselves, and it was really eye-opening for me.
There is an emotion that us humans can't control, and we sometimes let it control us. This emotion is fear, and we can be scared of many things, whether they are silly or not.
I am terrified of worms and frogs.
Some people are scared of dogs, spiders, tall buildings, and so much more.
I've been in 2 car accidents, and so I can say that I also fear driving at times only because I can't forget those accidents that I was in.
In an informal survey of our friends, classmates, and teachers, the 2 biggest fears were flying in airplanes and school shootings.
In a school shooting, there could be lost lives. There could be, it's a greater amount of people that are impacted by that.
I would never want to choose to go through that stabbing at school again, and I wouldn't want to deal with that again if I didn't have to.
Although fears can be seen as a negative thing, that is not necessarily the case. Believe it or not, there are some very good reasons why we as humans experience fear.
So the main function of fear and anxiety is to act as a signal of danger, or that there's a threat, or even some kind of motivational conflict, and to trigger a response in us to help preserve ourselves. That's where things like fight or flight come in.
A lot more students with anxiety, they were feared, going in certain areas or being around certain individuals. And so we kind of saw that effect, and I think it deeply impacts students' mental health.
Fears help us build us into stronger people, and they might not always be as negative as we make them out to be.
Thanks to everyone for that package. I think it was really eye-opening. I personally have never taken a moment to think about fear. It feels like a very basic thing that isn't really talked about very much. About 60% of men and 50% of women go through at least 1 or 2 traumatizing events in their life, and that can completely change yourself. You can completely change your personality, the things you like and dislike. It can really completely do a 180 on your life, depending on how extreme it is. And even if it isn't very extreme, it will still change you. And it's not talked about very much because it can also make you like more of an angry person. You know, sometimes someone's so much nicer and then they go through something traumatic and they completely change and they're like more aggressive. But speaking about being more aggressive, we're going to change into our next emotion, which is anger. And I was from the Jeers group, so our package was more for, like, I guess the public, because anger is very looked over. It's very much seen as, like, black and white, but I'd like to tell you that's not the case. We all know something that makes us angry.
Annoying kids.
This might be weird, but I really hate walking.
My kids.
Math.
People who play with my money.
When people step on my feet.
The unfairness, like someone would be treated.
People not being equal to each other.
A lot of noise, actually.
MGK. When people don't take the working environment to the utmost serious nature.
When people chew with their mouths open.
Anger is seen as more black and white for the majority. They think it's either calm or raging, but it's not really that simple or predictable. Anger is more of a spectrum, and it's more like different levels you feel are different shades of gray. Sometimes you'll have physical or emotional reactions to feeling angry. You can have your stomach churning, your throat feels like it's closing up, your heart's beating out of its chest, your face feels like it's heating up, or that the only thing that you can think about in that moment is a thing that made you angry. The worst thing to do is to bottle them up, because then they'll just end up exploding and it'll be way worse than if you were to just work through them right when it happens. So the best way to do it is to recognize how you feel. Grounding yourself is as simple as just taking a few seconds to take a few deep breaths, recognize what's going on and what you're doing, or just sitting down, listening to music or writing, anything that can get these emotions out and to be able to express them. Emotional maturity is realizing that you can't just keep hiding it and that these things are natural and you'll always feel this way. So it's better to learn how to work through it. Yeah, anger is really difficult to explain, and it's really difficult to like try and like bottle up because I feel like it's a little more of the extreme, I guess, in emotions. And anger is really hard to like notice as well, because if you bottle it up, it's just going to come back later, but in a different form. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it mixes very well with other emotions. Like you can be angry and sad, so you're crying, but still so angry about what's happening and still so upset. I pulled up an emotion wheel because it shows you the basic emotions in the middle, and as you go out farther, it shows you like more of like why you might be feeling this, or like things that are like that. So like offended, indignant, dismayed, bitter, all are parts of anger. So insulted, mocked, violated, outraged, let down. So something as simple as just a disappointment can be filed under anger, but it's not seen as that because anger is seen as this more like aggressive and more outgoing thing when really it isn't. Mm-hmm. And there's also this thing about anger being seen as a more acceptable emotion compared to like sadness. So especially for like boys or men, it's seen as more masculine to be angry instead of crying, which is very bad because it teaches men that they can't feel certain emotions and only have certain outlets, which can in turn cause like internalized hatreds towards yourself because, oh, I'm sad, I'm not very manly. There's other men more manly than me.
Like that makes me weak because I'm crying. Yeah, it's loaded, honestly.
Mm-hmm. If they're not seen strong enough, if they seen crying or anything like that. Social media and a lot of different things can also play a big role in females feeling the same way with body image, because a lot of with movies and TV shows and Instagram with all these models and people taking pictures and stuff, women are supposed to feel, women are supposed to be skinny and supposed to feel pretty only if they're skinny. And that's how the media presents itself in ways.
Well, it like also doesn't help that on Instagram most of those pictures are photoshopped. They don't look like that. they like want to appear that way because they want to appear pretty because that's what society thinks should be pretty. It's just a very vicious, endless cycle.
I feel like you have to be really careful with it. Like, you have to stay super conscious about what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's really difficult because I know for a lot of people, like Olivia and I, we push these things away and, like, use distractions like, oh, I'm going to go and, like, look at all these things that I find funny just because I'm going to try and ignore the problem that I have right now because it's so much easier to ignore and lock away than to deal with it, because I, for one, used to think I'm weak because I feel this way and I'm worse than everyone else because I'm feeling these things, and I'd bottle them up, and then I turned it into self-hatred, and I hated myself for so long. So it's really easy to do the wrong thing in these case scenarios, you know? It's so much easier to just throw it away and pretend it doesn't exist. But I think it's really important to notice these things and, like, to point them out, or even just saying, hey, I'm angry, or hey, I'm feeling a little sad right now, because it's more important to, like, point these things out right away because it helps a lot. Because if you just bottle them up and throw them away, they're going to come back later, just even worse than they are now. And I don't know about you guys, but I personally cry when I'm angry.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, tears are going to be shed if I'm angry or sad. I feel like tears are a very, like, big thing in all emotions.
I hate crying so much.
Yeah.
Also stems from my childhood, but yeah.
I feel like crying, though, is very natural. I feel like feeling sad and crying and, like, all of that is also seen as weak, but everyone gets sad. I feel like everyone goes through something that makes them sad. That was on your package, right? Like, how different people feel different sadnesses?
Tears. Yeah, we did a skit for our group, Tears, and it basically talks about, like, how everyone goes through this, and we, like, did an internalization of it to, like, see what people go through.
Sees me for who I am. Do other people feel this way?
Why did he change his mind so suddenly? He didn't even do it in person. Was I not good enough? I'm not worth the trouble.
I feel like an outcast. People just don't see me. Do they not care about me, or do they care too much? When am I gonna meet someone? I don't know about you guys, but today kind of sucked.
Yeah, today sucked. I've had better days.
So I'm not the only one?
Graduation, and they are not good whatsoever. I did orchestra in 5th grade, and I was singing absolutely.
I really like what Sang said at the end with the I'm not the only one too, because, like, I feel like it points out that everyone is dealing with this, and it feels like you're the only one when you're dealing with it, but it's really not. everyone deals with sadness in some sort of way. Like, the National Institute of Mental Health says that 21 million people in the United States deal with depression, yet it's seen as like this horrible thing, but so many people deal with it. It's kind of weird. Like how when you go to the doctor, you know, oh, my ankle hurts, I gotta go to the doctor. It's right away. Like, I hurt myself. I slipped on ice like an idiot and hurt myself. I'm in the doctor like 2 days later, and they're like, oh, it's just a sprain. But with, you know, sadness and like feeling really down in the dumps and thinking I'm at my worst point right now mentally, a lot of people would like to hide it more, you know? It's so much easier to like tuck it away.
The way that I find that depression can be stigmatized is that everybody thinks that depression is, oh, you're just feeling super sad, like you can just work through this. But the thing is, the difference between depression and sadness is, oh, yeah, I'm sad and like I want to cry about it. But depression, I have depression, and the way that it makes me feel is I don't want to do anything. I just want to lay in bed. I don't want to do anything. I don't even want to like brush my hair. It's almost like I'm a statue just laying in my bed, and I can't get up for anything, whether that be food, to get a drink of water. It's almost like depression is holding you down with the chains that just keep wrapping around you, and they never let up.
I actually have a few. I have symptoms pulled up. A few of them are irritability, fatigue, changes in sleeping or eating patterns, difficulty concentrating, like feelings of deep unwarranted guilt. Actually, there's physical symptoms like unwarranted like headaches or body aches at like no cause, like, you know. And the thing is, this also intertwines. Is that a good word?
Mm-hmm. Intertwines, yes.
Yeah, it like intertwines with like other medical, like mental disorders like ADHD. It's hard to distinguish between them sometimes because some of the symptoms are so similar. But also ADHD can cause something called secondary depression.
Like, they all are connected in a way, so it's really difficult to just put one label on it.
We looked at a World Happiness Report. These statistics have been produced over 10 years. It's based on an annual Gallup poll, so the data is from, you know, social media, country policies, health statistics. The happiest countries in the world are Iceland, Switzerland, and the Netherlands. The U.S. is in the middle, and the least happy are Romania, Singapore, and Uruguay.
I honestly think we're going to move down after this year. Definitely.
And this is our final package on Cheers. Sadly, none of us in the room has really contributed to this, so I guess we'll just have to see what it is.
Most people who think about mental health think of the negative aspects of it and the difficulties that people have to deal with. But mental health doesn't necessarily have to imply negativity. Happiness is also a part of mental health, and it plays a bigger role than most might think. Thinking about or doing things that make you happy can change your mood and make your day feel better. We asked Riley students what are some things that make them happy.
Hanging out and swimming.
What are those things?
Hanging out, I feel like I could just be myself, have fun with my friends, and just be loud, and then just enjoy the time.
Spending money and buying things.
Why did that make you?
Because it just makes me feel good to have something new, I guess.
Music, because, you know, if it's any type of mood you're in, so whether you're sad, happy, or whatever, it does cheer you up. And food. I like eating.
So 2 things that make me happy. One thing I really like, hanging out with friends and family. They mean a lot to me, and they, that support, being able to help them, and, having that support back. And also being creative, and that kind of ties into a lot of the things I do with my friends are making films.
Watching anime and playing video games. Well, they're epic and rad.
The thing that really makes me happy, make my day like every day, is tennis.
How long have you been playing tennis?
Just 1 year. Hanging out with my friends and my girlfriend.
Why is that good?
Because spending time with people makes me like distract myself from other things, so I can be like truly happy when I'm with.
There's also science behind the effects of happiness on your brain. Dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins are the hormones released that affect your mood, stress, and memory. These are also known as the happy hormones. These hormones have the ability to change your day and mood. In the end, doing things that bring enjoyment and happiness are essential to having a healthy relationship with mental health.
We pulled up an emotional scale, and basically it has 20, depending on when you look at, ours has 20 different emotions, but 20 to 25 different emotions that people deal with. And at the bottom, you have fear, you have grief, and at the top, there's joy. So it goes through all different kinds, but you don't necessarily have to be at the top to think or feel happy. You can be in the middle where there's boredom and or even like contentment. And it's still a big step. It's still a big step in it. It's still a big step no matter how small, because even like finding little things that make you happy, like we were talking about earlier, even like, this is probably an unhealthy thing, but like there's a guy in our class, his name's Fernando, and he spends money. If buying things make you happy, even if it's only for a temporary time.
Yeah, that was in the package.
Yeah, that was in the package. Even if it's for a temporary amount of time, it does make you happy. And then eventually, you'll move up through those stages and make your way to the top. We are posting this slide online, so you guys are able to see what we're looking at as well.
So I think that about wraps it up for us. We were Brainbreak. I'm Sejanaya.
I'm Jardini's.
I'm Elena.
I'm Olivia.
Make sure to check us out at www.sbstvradio.org or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at SBS-TV WETL Radio. So I guess this was all for our Brain Break. Break's over.